You've arrived at CozySideAudio, where dreams begin with a story. Whether you're studying, journaling, or just chilling, this one's for you. If you vibe with this kind of content, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe for more.
CozySideAudio presents Respawn Together, Chapter 1. The loading screen pulsed in faint neon, a synthetic melody looping in the background, and for Emmett Navarro, it was as familiar as an old porch light flicking on at the end of the day. He leaned back in his chair, headset already snug around his ears, and exhaled into the mic like a ritual. "Booting up," he said, not loud, just enough for the others waiting in voice to hear the scratch of his voice. "About time," Mark answered. His tone was half a groan, half a laugh. The kind of sound only someone who had been giving you grief since middle school could make. "You know we've been sitting in lobby purgatory for like 10 minutes, right? Some of us have jobs, artists." "You mean construction?" Jazz cut in, her voice clear and sharp, undercut by a smile you could practically hear. "Mark, your job ends when the sun sets. You've got no excuse." Hey, concrete never sleeps. "And neither do I, apparently," Mark said. His chair squeaked. You could picture him leaning back, hands behind his head, grinning like he'd just struck the perfect landing. "Can we not start with this again?" Nate's voice chimed in. He had the tone of someone already exhausted by their antics, but it carried a smirk beneath. "Every time, I swear, every time, like clockwork. I log in, I hear Mark whining about schedules, Jazz cutting him down, and Emmett pretending to be above it all. Deja vu." "Shut it, Kitsune," Mark shot back. "You're just mad I keep carrying you." "Carrying me? Bro, if anything, I've been dragging your heavy-ass armor build since high school." Nate laughed so hard his mic clipped. Came Derek's voice at last. A single syllable, low and quiet, like a door creaking open. Shaded didn't talk much, but when he did, the channel fell still for a heartbeat, waiting for more. He never gave it. Not unless it was in the game. "Okay," Emmett said, steering them back, the way he always did. "We good to cue? Quick raid before we lose another 15 minutes to Mark's monologues?" "Cue it up, Captain," Jazz said. "Yeah, hit us in," Nate added. "I'm already tired of hearing my own voice. I need to hear the sweet sound of Mark screaming when he dies first." "Dream on," Mark muttered, but Emmett could hear the grin in it. The lobby faded into the match countdown, and suddenly all 5 of them were suspended in that electric space between reality and play where their day jobs, tired bodies, messy apartments, and real-world chaos bled out into the background hum. They'd been slipping into this same liminal zone for more than a decade, since 8th grade, when their voices still cracked mid-sentence and their parents shouted at them to get off the Xbox at midnight. Back then, this game or one like it was just a pastime. Now it was something else. It was home. The drop. The screen shimmered as their avatars spawned in, armored figures dropping into a fractured cityscape of broken skyscrapers and half-lit billboards. The map was called Ashen Verge, a vertical labyrinth perfect for ambushes and flanking maneuvers. And oh, Emmett's HUD blinked alive. Artist 1, squad leader. His loadout was balanced. Mid-range rifle, support drone, grappling hook for vertical pushes. His style was to watch angles, call plays, and keep everyone synced. "All right," Emmett said, scanning the map. "Shaded, east rooftops. Volk, you're with me mid. Irons, Kitsune, take low street, push left flank." "On it," Jazz replied instantly, already sprinting ahead with a sniper slung across her avatar's back. Her gamertag Volk floated above her head, crisp white against the dark skyline. "You got it, boss man," Nate said, voice playful. His fox-masked avatar twirled twin blades as he dropped into an alley, Kitsune flickering like a shadow. Mark made a noise somewhere between a grunt and a laugh. "If I die, I'm haunting you." His armored avatar Irons stomped down the street with zero subtlety, shield raised. Derek didn't reply, but Emmett's minimap pinged his position on a high perch, already settling in. Shaded didn't need to talk. He just did. The raid began. Chaos and camaraderie. Within seconds, enemy fire erupted. Bullets sparked off Mark's shield as he took point. "Contact! Left corner!" he barked. But his voice cracked into laughter when Nate vaulted off his shield and launched straight into the enemy squad with a spin slash. You lunatic, Mark shouted. You're welcome, Nate replied, cutting down 2 opponents before his avatar exploded into a cloud of digital dust. Worth it, he added as the respawn timer ticked on his screen. Clean shot, Valk, Emmett said as a distant rifle crack echoed. Jazz had downed a 3rd enemy with surgical precision. Shaded, you've got an angle? Derek murmured. Another crack, another enemy down. His feed didn't show flashy kills, just cold efficiency. Mark's laughter rattled through the channel. God, I love this game. No matter how many times we run it, every raid feels new. It's like middle school, all over again. Except your knees probably hurt more now, Jazz said. Unnecessary, Mark groaned. You're the one who brought up age, man, Nate said from respawn. Focus, Emmett said, though his grin spread ear to ear. He pinged the objective. Push the data core. Shaded. Cover. Valk. With me. Irons. Respawns dropping in. Meet Kitsune low side. The crew moved like clockwork, years of instinct guiding them. Even when Nate's chaos threw off plans, even when Mark's shield rushed too far ahead, even when Jazz rolled her eyes through every voice inflection, it worked. It always worked. After the raid, they won the match in 17 minutes. The final kill came from Derek, silent as always, a perfect shot that ended the last enemy's push, just before Mark's shield broke. The victory screen splashed across all their monitors, bright with confetti and digital fanfare. Boom! Mark shouted, standing so suddenly his chair screeched. Tell me I'm not MVP. Go ahead, I dare you. You're not MVP, Nate said instantly. Mark groaned, laughter bubbling beneath. You're all just jealous of these stats. Stats don't lie, bro, Jazz said, and yours say you took the most damage for least kills. Which makes me the team player, Mark argued. You're welcome. Emmett muted his mic to laugh without interrupting. They hadn't changed in all these years. Life outside might look different now. Day jobs, bills, apartments instead of parents' houses. But when they were here, together, it was still them. He clicked his mic back on. Cue us up again. Let's keep it rolling. The night stretched on in matches, kills, respawns, and laughter. It was the same rhythm that had carried them through high school finals, college applications, job hunts, heartbreaks, and random Wednesday nights when nothing else in the world made sense. They didn't need to say it out loud. The game was theirs, and so was this friendship forged in raid fire, carried through the years, and still alive every time they hit. Ready. Chapter 2. The glow of the monitor washed over Emmett's face as the next match loaded in. It was close to midnight, the kind of hour when the world outside grew hushed, but in their little corner of the internet, life thrummed at full tilt. Okay, tell me the truth, Nate said, stretching his words like he was leaning back in his chair. How many hours are we putting in tonight? Because I swore I'd go to bed by 1, but I also swore that last night, and the night before, and the night before that. You're not fooling anyone, Jazz replied. We all know you'll still be here at 4 a.m., complaining about how you have client work in the morning. Don't expose me like that, Valk. You expose yourself, Kitsune. Mark laughed, the deep kind that clipped his mic. Can't wait to hear you yawning through your creative meetings tomorrow. I bet your clients love your half-asleep graphic design energy. Hey, they're paying for art, not my sleep schedule. Your art probably looks like it was drawn with your eyes closed. That's my style. Okay, children, Emmett cut in, shaking his head though none of them could see. We're going into a boss raid. Focus. Artists, you're killing the vibe, Mark said. No, he's saving it, Jazz countered. Remember what happened last time we let you run wild? You charged the boss without waiting for the team and wiped us in under 2 minutes. Worth it, Mark said. It was not worth it, Jazz snapped, and though her tone was sharp, there was laughter underneath. The raid begins. The environment shifted to the inside of a ruined cathedral, vaulted ceilings split with jagged holes, moonlight spilling across cracked stone floors. Their target was the Hollow Seraph, a cybernetic angel construct that loomed with mechanical wings of steel. Its sword dragged sparks against the ground as it screeched in metallic tones. God, I hate this boss, Nate muttered. Always spams the AoE slam like it's the only move coded into the AI. That's because you never dodge, Jazz said. I dodge, sometimes. Derek murmured, his first word since the last match. It was more commentary than agreement, but it made them all laugh anyway. Emmett marked the boss on the map. Okay, same plan as before. Irons tanks the hits, Valk stays high ground with sniper, Kitsune runs flank damage. Shaded, cover fire. I'll drop drones mid. Let's dance, Mark said, slamming his shield down as his avatar stomped forward. The boss shrieked and lunged, its steel wings slicing the air. The raid erupted in chaos. Mark shouted nonstop, taunting both the boss and the crew. Come at me! Yeah, that's right. You can't break irons. His shield rattled under the force of the Seraph's strikes, but he laughed through every impact. Nate blurred across the battlefield, Fox mask gleaming as he sliced at the boss's joints. I'm behind it. I'm behind it. Oh, nope, I'm dead. You're hopeless, Jazz said, already lining up a shot. The crack of her rifle echoed, blasting a glowing weak point in the Seraph's wing. Hit the joint, left side. On it, Emmett called. He sent his drone buzzing across the battlefield, attaching to the boss's armor and unleashing an EMP pulse. The Seraph staggered, its scream warping through speakers. Nice, Nate cheered, already respawned and back in the fray. Covering, Derek said softly, and his rifle barked once, dropping an enemy ad that had spawned to flank Jazz. His voice carried so rarely that whenever it surfaced, it cut through like a bell. Oh, the fight surged on. Minutes stretched into a frantic blur of dodges, strikes, and shouted callouts. Mark's shield cracked. Emmett's drones fizzled. Nate's health bar plummeted and revived more times than anyone could count. Jazz kept her calm precision, threading bullet after bullet through glowing weak points, while Derek's silent protection ensured none of the spawn mobs ever got close. And finally, with one last synchronized push, Emmett's drone locking the Seraph in place, Mark charging shield first, Nate spinning twin blades in a storm, Jazz landing a perfect headshot, and Derek firing a finishing shot through its exposed chest, the boss collapsed. The cathedral shook as the hollow Seraph shattered into shards of light. The victory screen blazed across their monitors. Post-raid banter. Boom, baby! Mark yelled. Tell me that wasn't flawless. You died 3 times, Jazz said. Details. You literally fell into the boss's AoE like a moth to a lamp, Nate added. That's called strategy. I distracted it so you all could do your jobs. That's called incompetence, Jazz said flatly. Semantics. Emmett laughed into his mic, wiping his eyes. Good run, though, seriously. Clean finish. Thanks to me, Mark said proudly. Thanks to everyone except you, Nate countered. Harsh. True. Emmett shook his head, smiling. He adjusted in his chair, stretching his legs. Nights like this were muscle memory now. Raid, laugh, argue, repeat. Still, sometimes he felt the weight of how long they'd been doing this, the fact that even though life had pulled them all in different directions, this space always stayed the same. Q again? Jazz asked. Hell yes, Mark said. One more boss, Nate agreed, but no promises I won't fall asleep mid-fight. You've done it before, Jazz said. Power nap strat. They laughed again, voices overlapping, and the next loading screen hummed into view. Late-night talk. By the time they cleared a second raid, it was nearly 3 in the morning. Their voices had softened, the adrenaline of combat slipping into that easy rhythm of late-night conversation. So, Mark said, dragging the word out, anybody else feeling ancient these days, or is it just me? You are ancient, Nate replied. We're all young and spry. Just you creaking around like a grandpa. Bro, I'm 27. Exactly. Exactly what? Exactly, Grandpa. Mark groaned. This is abuse. You love it, Jazz said. Derek murmured, surprising them. They all cracked up, the rarest of Derek's chuckles breaking through. Emmett leaned back, smiling faintly. He thought about the years they'd spent doing this. 8th grade to now jobs, moves, breakups, whatever else came and went. But the crew stayed. Their voices were the through line. If anyone had asked him what friendship looked like, he'd point right here. 5 avatars standing shoulder to shoulder in a lobby at 3 a.m. Same time tomorrow? Emmett asked. Obviously, Nate said. Wouldn't miss it, Jazz added. I'll be here, Mark said. Derek confirmed. The match countdown started again. The night wasn't over yet. Chapter 3. The lobby music thrummed while Emmett scrolled through the latest patch notes on his second monitor. His desk was a controlled disaster. Sticky notes, 2 empty cans of soda, a pizza box that was at least 2 days old, and a mess of tangled wires. Still, he knew exactly where everything was. Okay, he said, clearing his throat like a lecturer about to start class. Patch 2.7, balance changes, let's go. A chorus of groans rose in his headset. God, not the patch notes, Mark moaned. Spare us. This is important, Emmett replied. The Hollow Seraph fight has been adjusted, apparently. Adjusted how? Jazz asked, suddenly alert. Boss AI rebalanced, damage outputs tweaked, and... He squinted. Oh no, they nerfed Iron's shield build. What? Mark's mic practically blew out. No, they didn't. They did, Emmett said, trying not to laugh. Patch notes. Adjusted shield absorption from 65% to 45%. Increased cooldown on reinforceability from 30 to 45 seconds. That's robbery, Mark said, furious. How am I supposed to tank like this? You're not, Nate said cheerfully. You're supposed to die faster, and let the rest of us carry you. Unacceptable, Mark thundered. I'm filing a complaint. They won't listen, Jazz said dryly. They never do. I'm the soul of this game. Without me, it collapses. You're the comic relief, Nate corrected. Emmett finally broke, laughing. Okay, calm down. It's just one patch. One patch that ruins my entire life. Queue up. The 5 of them readied into the new frontline siege mode, a sprawling battlefield with 2 bases, endless waves of enemies, and one goal, push the line forward until the other team cracked. First time since the update, Nate said. Anyone know what changed? I skimmed, Jazz said. New spawn points, rebalanced weapons, buffed sniper recoil. That's right, Emmett said. Valk, you just got deadlier. Jazz didn't respond, but he could hear the smirk in the silence. Meanwhile, I got nerfed, Mark grumbled. Cry about it, Nate said. Gladly. The loading screen dissolved, and suddenly their avatars were dropped into chaos. War machines trundling down ruined streets, banners snapping in the smoke-filled air, teammates swarming forward with rifles blazing. Mark charged first, as always. Let's go, boys and Valk. Hold the line, Irons, Emmett called. I'm trying, but my shield is made of wet paper now. Nate cackled as he darted ahead, twin pistols flashing. Then dodge like the rest of us, Grandpa. Don't call me Grandpa. Jazz's voice cut through the madness. Left flank incoming. Kitsune, peel back. Copy, Nate said, already diving behind cover. Nice call, Valk. Emmett's drones buzzed overhead, dropping healing bursts and shock grenades to keep the crew alive. Meanwhile, Derek's steady shots picked off enemy snipers on the rooftops. He never said a word, but each sharp crack of his rifle was an assurance. He was watching, covering, guarding. The battle raged. Explosions thundered, smoke filled the air, and the push seesawed for nearly half an hour. They were exhausted, laughing, shouting, dying, respawning, and charging again. Finally, after one last desperate push, they broke through the enemy line and secured the base. Victory text splashed across their screens. The victory lap. Yes! Mark shouted, pumping his fist in real life. Shield nerf can't stop me. You died 8 times, Jazz said. I died gloriously. You died pathetically, Nate corrected. Semantics. I swear, you and your semantics, Emmett said, shaking his head. Semantics is my middle name. No, it's actually Edwin, Nate said. Don't dox me, Mark yelled, laughing so hard he wheezed. First name only, relax, Nate said innocently. Not like we don't all know them. That opened the floodgates to an old running bit. "Hey, remember the first year we played and nobody would even say their names?" Jazz said. "I remember," Emmett said. "We were all paranoid middle schoolers thinking one of us was a 50-year-old man pretending to be a kid." "Well," Nate said, "Mark still kind of sounds like that." "Excuse me?" "You've got that truck stop energy," Nate said. "Like I should be ordering hash browns and a cup of weak coffee from you." Mark sputtered. "That's it. Next match, I'm team killing you." "You can't. Friendly fire's off." "I'll find a way." "Children," Jazz said deadpan. "Thanks, Mom," Nate shot back. Late night drift. After another couple of matches, they drifted into that half-silly, half-serious state the night always pulled them toward. "So," Nate asked, "what's everyone eating tonight? I'm starving." "Pizza box," Emmett admitted. "Day 2. Not proud." "Disgusting," Jazz said. "Delicious," Emmett countered. "I had takeout," Mark said. "Chinese, lo mein, and egg rolls. My dinner was superior to all of yours." "Mine was a protein shake," Jazz said. "Of course it was," Nate said. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Means you're better than us." "I am." Mark booed loudly. "What about you, Shaded?" Emmett asked. There was a pause, then Derek's voice, soft but steady. "Cereal." "Cereal at midnight," Nate said. "Respect." "Classic," Mark agreed. "Efficient," Jazz said. "Lazy," Emmett teased. Derek replied. They laughed together, the kind of easy laughter that came from years of knowing every rhythm, every pause, every inside joke. Wrap up. By the time the clock ticked past 3:30, their reflexes were slower, their voices softer. "Same time tomorrow?" Emmett asked, as always. "Obviously," Nate said. "Wouldn't miss it," Jazz said. "I'll be here," Mark added. Derek confirmed. 5 little avatars stood in the lobby, shoulder to shoulder. Outside, their 5 different lives stretched on, but in here, the night was theirs. Chapter 4. The patch dropped at midnight sharp. Emmett had been refreshing the launcher since 11, watching the progress bar crawl like a dying snail, his knee bouncing as the download inched forward. On the other end of the line, Marcus cursed at his own computer for the 3rd time, shouting something about his Wi-Fi being held together with duct tape and spit. Jazz laughed so hard she nearly choked on her drink, while Derek quietly muttered that he'd already finished downloading an hour ago. Of course he had. Derek always preloaded. "All right, crew," Emmett announced, cracking his knuckles. "Patch night. Let's see what's broken this time." "Everything," Marcus said confidently. "Everything is always broken. I bet my shotgun fires marshmallows now." "Wouldn't that actually be an improvement for you?" Jazz teased. "At least then you wouldn't whiff point-blank shots." "Oh, come on, that was 1 time. 4 times, Nate cut in. 4, in the same match." The channel erupted in laughter. Marcus groaned, but he was smiling. He liked being the butt of their jokes. It meant they were together, and together was what mattered. The patch brought a brand new raid, the Bastion of Echoes. The trailer had been full of flashing neon corridors, robotic guards, and some kind of boss wielding what looked like a sword taller than Marcus in real life. Everyone had been buzzing about it for weeks, and tonight they dove in head first. The raid opened with the crew rappelling down a digital elevator shaft, landing in a cavernous lobby lit by pulsing blue lights. Holographic banners flickered above them. "Welcome to the Bastion." "Creepy corporate vibe," Emmett noted. "Feels like an HR office from hell." "That's redundant," Derek said dryly. The first wave of enemies swarmed in, sleek robotic soldiers armed with plasma rifles. Emmett immediately took charge, barking orders like a seasoned general. "Mark, up front. Valk, cover the left balcony. Nate, set a trap on the right flank. Shade, with me, let's clear the center." The crew moved in sync, years of play smoothing the rough edges. Marcus slammed through the front line like a human wrecking ball, shotgun booming. Jazz picked off enemies across the map with surgical precision, her shots cracking like thunder. Nate tossed out holographic decoys that baited the AI into ambushes. Derek, quiet but steady, filled in the gaps, patching damage, landing clutch headshots, and pulling Emmett out of trouble more than once. "Who gave the bots better aim?" Marcus yelled as a plasma shot seared his armor. "Skill issue," Jazz replied. "I'm reporting you for toxicity." "Do it," she said with a grin in her voice. Halfway through the raid, they hit the first mini-boss, the Sentinel. A 10-foot-tall mech stomped into the room, swinging electrified batons. The fight was chaos. Marcus charged head-on, naturally, and was instantly flung across the room like a rag doll. "Guys," he groaned, "my spine." "You don't need it," Nate said. "Just respawn with a new one." Emmett tried to coordinate. "Focus fire on the legs." But the Sentinel was relentless. It swept through cover, forcing them to scramble. Derek, cool as ever, lined up a shot with his pulse rifle, blasting one of the Sentinel's joints. Sparks flew, and the mech faltered. "Nice shot," Jazz cheered. "Don't cheer yet," Derek muttered. "It's charging up again." The fight dragged on, messy, but exhilarating. After a dozen near wipes and too many revives, they finally brought the Sentinel crashing down. The loot chest exploded in a spray of digital fireworks. "Garbage," Marcus said, sifting through the rewards. "Who wants my 5th pair of useless boots?" "Send them to me," Nate said. "I'm building a closet." The night stretched long as they pushed deeper into the bastion. Between firefights, their voices drifted into real life. "So, Jazz," Emmett asked between waves, "how's the lab project?" "Still waiting on results," she said, sighing. "Honestly, this raid is more fun than running assays." "Can confirm," Marcus said. "Pipettes don't explode when you poke them wrong." "Speak for yourself," Jazz muttered. "You've clearly never contaminated a sample." Nate jumped in. "Meanwhile, I finished a client logo today. Guy wanted a wolf, but, like, futuristic. So now I've drawn 50 cyber wolves and hate them all." "New raid boss idea," Emmett said. "Cyber wolf. Barks in binary." Marcus made a garbled digital howl noise that nearly made Jazz spit her drink again. Even Derek, who rarely said much, chuckled. They finally reached the final boss, the Echo Warden, a towering android knight wielding a blade of crackling light. The arena lit up in shifting patterns, lasers sweeping the floor. The fight demanded perfection. Dodging, timing, coordination. The crew rose to the challenge. Marcus tanked through brutal combos, shouting obscenities as he went down, revived, and went down again. Jazz nailed every mechanic with sniper-like precision. Nate taunted the Warden with decoys, laughing as the boss wasted attacks. Emmett kept the team organized, calling patterns, boosting morale, and Derek. Derek was the quiet finisher, his shots always landing where they mattered most. After a grueling 20-minute fight, the Echo Warden collapsed in a burst of neon shards. Victory music blasted. "Raid cleared," Emmett said, voice triumphant. "Patch night's success." "Screenshot!" Jazz shouted, and they all lined up their avatars for a victory pose. The 5 of them stared at the glowing screen, digital warriors frozen in triumph. Behind their monitors, tired smiles stretched across real faces scattered across the country. Another night, another memory. And still, they had no idea how much these memories would matter. Chapter 5. The tournament wasn't official. Not really. Just a community-run showdown organized on the game's forums, complete with a bracket, commentators on Twitch, and a prize pool cobbled together from donations. But to the Midnight crew, it might as well have been the World Championship. "All right," Emmett said, leaning into his mic. "You all read the bracket? We're seeded 4th. "4th?" Marcus barked. "We've been playing this game longer than half these punks have been alive. 4th is an insult." "Take it as motivation," Jazz replied, or as reality. "We're good, but there are plenty of good teams." No, 4th is fine," Nate cut in, smirking in his voice. "It means we only have to beat everyone. Easy." Derek didn't say anything, but Emmett caught the flicker of laughter in his throat mic. That alone was enough to settle the nerves. The first round was a stomp. The opposing team, Phantom Foxes, barely lasted 10 minutes before Marcus plowed through them like a runaway train. Jazz called shots with pinpoint accuracy. Nate baited them into traps, and Derek cleaned house quietly, like a shadow. Emmett just kept the gears oiled, making sure no one overextended. Nah, GG, Nate typed in chat as the scoreboard lit up. That was merciful. They're uninstalling, Marcus said. I felt it through the screen. Round 2 was closer. Graveborn, a squad famous for their precision, gave them trouble. The match dragged out, long and tense, every corridor of the map contested. Left flank, Jazz shouted. I see it, Marcus replied, barreling in. Plasma fire filled the air, scorching the walls. Emmett's heart pounded. He wasn't just playing anymore, he was living it, each command in his headset like oxygen. Derek, quiet as ever, saved them from elimination twice. Once with a perfectly timed revive, once with a shot that stopped the enemy sniper cold. When victory finally came, the chat exploded. Shaded God, Nate typed in all caps, spamming Derek's gamertag. Derek just chuckled. By the time they reached the semifinals, exhaustion was setting in. Hours had passed. Energy drinks and leftover snacks powered them now. Reminder, Emmett said. Hydrate, people. I hydrated earlier, Marcus said. With nacho cheese. That's not. It's basically dairy. Dairy is liquid. Liquid equals hydration. Don't me. Your arteries are screaming, Jazz muttered. Nate broke in. Focus, lovebirds. We've got a match. The semifinal was brutal. Their opponents, Zenith, weren't just good. They were organized. Like military-level organized. Every push was countered, every angle covered. The Midnight crew found themselves on the back foot, scrambling to stay alive. Marcus fell first, charging too deep. Jazz cursed as she was picked off, trying to cover him. Nate tried a decoy maneuver, but the enemy didn't bite. It was down to Emmett and Derek, backs to the wall. You push left, Derek said quietly. I'll hold right. Emmett hesitated. We'll get split. They'll expect us to stay together, Derek replied. The plan worked. Emmett slipped past while Derek made himself a target, trading shots with impossible patience. By the time Zenith realized, Emmett had flanked their core player and dismantled their setup. Derek finished the last one with a clean headshot. The scoreboard flashed, victory. For a moment, no one said a word. Then Marcus whooped so loud his mic clipped. Finals, baby! The finals were streamed to a few thousand viewers. Not massive, but more than enough to make palms sweat. Their opponents, Eclipse, the #1 seed, legends of the community, ruthless, efficient, stylish, the kind of players that made highlight reels. This is it, Emmett said. Win or lose, let's play our game, our way. Marcus cracked his knuckles. And our way is violence. The match was a war zone. Every fight was razor close, swinging back and forth like a pendulum. Nate's decoys bought them openings, Jazz's sniping turned pushes into retreats, and Marcus fought like he had nothing to lose. Emmett kept them steady, calling rotations, reminding them of cooldowns. Derek, as always, was the quiet anchor, clutching when it mattered most. The final round came down to the wire, both teams tied, sudden death. Last push, Emmett said, voice tight. Breathe, we've got this. Marcus charged, Jazz covered, Nate tricked, Derek finished, and Emmett held it all together. When the final kill landed, when the scoreboard lit up with their victory, the crew screamed into their mics. Pure chaos, pure joy. They weren't playing for a trophy. They weren't playing for money. They were playing for each other. And that win felt bigger than anything else. Hours later, after the stream ended, after the adrenaline wore off, they sat in voice chat, laughing about every play. Best night ever, Marcus said, voice hoarse. Until the next patch, Jazz replied. Or the next raid, Nate added. Emmett leaned back in his chair, smiling at the ceiling. Derek hadn't said much, but Emmett could hear him breathing, still there, still part of the rhythm. Together. Always together. Chapter 6. It started with a bug. Or, more accurately, Marcus shouting at 1:14 in the morning. Guys, I just phased through the wall. I'm inside the wall. Emmett groaned, rubbing his face. Mark, we've talked about this. Stop breaking the game. No, I'm serious. Marcus's avatar was, in fact, jammed halfway through a steel barrier, arms flailing like a glitchy puppet. Look, I'm a ghost. Nate immediately cackled. Hold still. Screenshot time. Don't screenshot my suffering. Help me. Too late, Jazz said calmly, her sniper scope already trained on Marcus's head. I'm ending this. The shot cracked. Marcus's avatar ragdolled out of the wall, and he respawned across the map. Betrayal! Marcus yelled. Jazz, you're off my Christmas card list. You don't even send Christmas cards, Jazz replied. Yeah, but if I did, you'd be off it. That set the tone for the night. Not raids, not tournaments, just chaos. Glitch hunting. Poking around in half-broken corners of the game where the devs clearly hadn't meant players to go. Emmett, usually the focus leader, even gave in. All right, fine. No objectives, no missions. Tonight we hunt bugs. Bug hunting, Nate said, adopting a mock-serious tone. The truest endgame. The map they chose was an old industrial zone, long abandoned in the game's lore, full of crumbling smokestacks and locked warehouses. Perfect territory for breaking things. Over here, Derek said quietly. He'd found a way to wedge his avatar between two barrels, forcing the geometry to clip. Teach me your ways, Shaded One, Marcus intoned. Within 10 minutes, the crew had discovered 3 spots where you could fall through the floor. One where you could climb invisible scaffolding into the skybox, and another where crouch spamming made the whole screen shake like an earthquake. This is beautiful, Nate whispered. Pure, unfiltered chaos. Don't tell the devs, Jazz said. They'll patch it. Oh, I'm telling them, Marcus said. And demanding royalties for my wall phasing technique. Royalties in what? Emmett asked. Digital boots? You'll just complain about those too. Hey, I'm starting a collection. Somewhere between bug exploits and laughing fits, the conversation drifted. That was how it always happened. 1 minute they were breaking the game, the next they were spilling bits of their lives. So my boss, Marcus said, mid-jump as his avatar tried to clip through a pipe, chewed me out today for eating lunch on site. You were eating where? Jazz asked. On top of the scaffolding. It was a nice view. That's not safe, Emmett said, half distracted while trying to glitch into a ceiling. That's why they yelled at me, Marcus said cheerfully. Nate laughed. Classic Mark. Nearly dies, but, hey, worth it for the view. There was a pause. Then Derek added softly, At least you weren't stuck inside a wall. Marcus howled. You too, man, traitor. Later, after a full hour of glitch hunting, they decided to test one last bug, a rumored infinite grenade exploit. All right, who's the guinea pig? Emmett asked. Me, obviously, Marcus said. Of course, Jazz muttered. The exploit worked. Sort of. Marcus threw grenade after grenade, laughing maniacally, until the server started to lag. The screen filled with smoke, explosions rattling every corner of the map. Oh no, Nate said, panic in his voice. Oh yes, Marcus bellowed. And then, crash. The whole game froze. One by one, their connections dropped. Mark? Emmett said, staring at his frozen screen. Mark broke the server, Jazz confirmed flatly. Guys, I am power, Marcus shouted through voice chat, his game still locked on the endless grenade toss. I am... Oh wait, I crashed too. The channel went silent for a beat, then erupted into uncontrollable laughter. By the time they logged back in, it was nearly 3 a.m. Their eyes were heavy, their hands sore, but their spirits high. That was the dumbest night we've ever had, Jazz said. And the best, Marcus added. Next week, Nate declared, we exploit the skybox until we fall into the sun. Next week, Emmett said, smiling. Same time. Derek said nothing, but his icon stayed lit, steady and present. That was enough. Chapter 7. Friday night meant one thing. Raid night. The tradition had started back in high school. Every Friday, no matter what assignments or part-time jobs they had, the Midnight Crew set aside their evenings for the longest, hardest missions the game could throw at them. Bosses, puzzles, endless waves of enemies. It didn't matter. Friday night was for chaos, coordination, and bragging rights. And now, in their mid-20s, with adult schedules crammed full of responsibilities, it still held. Maybe it mattered more now than it ever had. "All right, listen up," Emmett said, adopting his raid leader voice. "We're tackling the vault tonight." "Oh, baby," Marcus groaned happily. "I've been waiting for this." "Vault?" Jazz asked. "Thought that was bugged." "Not anymore," Nate replied. "Patch notes fixed it, probably. Unless Marcus grenades the server again." "One time," Marcus shouted. "One time." Derek chuckled under his breath, the faintest sound, but enough to set them all laughing before the raid even began. The vault was legendary, not because it was the hardest raid in the game. It wasn't, but because it was unpredictable. Randomized rooms, traps that could spawn anywhere, and puzzles that demanded actual teamwork. The first chamber was simple, a gauntlet of turrets and drones. "Shield up!" Emmett barked. Marcus charged forward, bullets pinging off his armor, while Jazz picked turrets clean from the backline. Nate darted between cover, drawing fire, and Derek slipped into shadows, silent and lethal. 10 minutes later, the room was clear. "Too easy," Marcus said. "That's because we actually followed directions for once," Jazz said. "I follow directions all the time." "Uh-huh," Nate said. "Sure you do." The second chamber was a puzzle, 4 pressure plates scattered across the floor, each requiring perfect timing. "Classic," Emmett muttered. "All right, Derek and I on the left, Jazz and Nate on the right. Mark, you stand in the middle and don't move." "What?" "I can be useful too," Marcus protested. "Yes," Jazz said, "by not moving." Marcus sighed dramatically. "Fine, but if you all fail, it's on you." They didn't fail. It took 3 tries, but they synced their jumps, timed the plates, and the door opened with a thunderous boom. "Teamwork makes the dream work," Nate sang. "Never say that again," Jazz replied. By the 4th chamber, the raid was testing them. Spawns were relentless, puzzles stacked on top of combat, and Emmett's voice was hoarse from calling rotations. Marcus's laughter grew louder the more chaotic it got, while Nate somehow turned every close call into a meme-worthy line. Jazz kept her cool, landing impossible shots, and Derek, the quiet constant, was always exactly where he needed to be. Hours passed in a blur. Snacks were devoured, drinks emptied, voices raw. Finally, they reached the vault's final room, the boss. A towering construct of steel and flame, flanked by rotating cannons, the kind of boss that punished hesitation. "Positions," Emmett said. "We know the drill." The fight raged. Marcus soaked damage like a human shield. Jazz dismantled cannons one by one. Nate danced between hazards, and Derek cut down reinforcements with eerie precision. Emmett kept them alive, barking orders through the chaos. Half an hour in, the boss was down to its last sliver of health. "Final push!" Emmett yelled. "I got this!" Marcus roared. He leapt onto the boss's platform, swinging wildly. "Mark, wait!" Jazz started. Too late. The boss unleashed a shockwave, sending Marcus's avatar flying into the abyss. "No!" Marcus wailed. "Sacrifice for the cause," Nate said solemnly. "Shut up," Marcus grumbled. Emmett clenched his jaw, fingers flying. "We can still do this. Focus." And they did. With one last coordinated assault, Derek landed the killing blow. The vault collapsed, and the victory screen bathed them all in golden light. The loot wasn't amazing. It rarely was. But that didn't matter. The real prize was the victory itself, the way their voices overlapped, cheering, laughing, talking over each other in that perfect chaotic chorus that only came after a win hard-earned. "This," Marcus said breathlessly, "this is why raid night is sacred." "Sacred?" Jazz asked. "Yes, like a holy ritual. Nachos, Mountain Dew, and glory." "You're disgusting," she said. "And victorious," Marcus replied smugly. "Oh." They stayed in voice chat long after the game wound down, basking in the afterglow. Nate told a story about a weird freelance gig. Jazz complained about a lab meeting that ran too long. Marcus described nearly dropping a steel beam on his foot, and Emmett offered quiet encouragement in between yawns. Derek didn't say much, but his laugh, low, genuine, rare, cut through at just the right times. "Same time next week?" Emmett asked. "Always," Marcus said. "Unless Mark dies from nacho overdose before then," Jazz muttered. "What a way to go," Nate said dreamily. "Don't give him ideas," Emmett warned. They all laughed again, the sound carrying them into the night. The vault was cleared, the ritual complete. Raid night lived on. Chapter 8. The screen's glow was the only light in Emmett's apartment, washing his face in pale blue as his headset buzzed alive. Friday night, crew night. "All right, you degenerates," Mark's voice boomed the moment Emmett joined the voice chat. "I'm already in lobby. Where the hell is everybody? I don't want to babysit bots." "I'm here," Jazz said coolly, her mic picking up the faint hum of lo-fi beats in her background. "And I'm carrying tonight, so you can relax, muscle man." Mark scoffed. "You always say that before you end up face first in Respawn." "Correction, before you get me killed rushing into 5 guys without cover." Emmett chuckled, adjusting his chair. "Same fight, different Friday." A new ping cut in. Derek's quiet voice filled the channel. "I'm on. Ready when you are." And just like that, the Midnight Crew was complete. The match dropped them into Iron Siege's newest expansion map, Verdun Rift, a sprawling canyon dotted with collapsed bridges and glowing fissures of energy. Mark immediately marked the forward choke. "We push here, no hesitation." "Hold on," Jazz countered. "Snipers love that ridge. We'll get picked apart. That's why I'm charging through first." "I'll eat the bullets, you clean house." "Or," Emmett cut in, his voice steady, "we swing left. If we stay low, Vault can cover from the cliffside while we flank mid. It'll put us closer to the generator objective, too." There was a brief silence, followed by Derek's soft laugh. Classic Emmett. Always turning my camping spots into strategy. Mark groaned, but didn't argue. "Fine, but if I don't get at least 10 kills, I'm blaming you." They launched into the canyon, sprinting across jagged rocks and weaving between cover. The air was filled with the electronic whine of enemy drones and the thunder of rifle fire. Jazz's first shot cracked like lightning. An enemy collapsed before they even spotted her. "Headshot. You're welcome," she said smugly. Mark was already knee-deep in chaos, his armored avatar plowing into 2 opponents with a hammer swing. "2 down. Who's next?" "3 on your left," Derek murmured, his character popping up from the shadows to land precise pistol shots. The flank crumbled before the squad's momentum. Emmett coordinated like a conductor, calling rotations, watching the minimap, making sure everyone's strengths clicked together. Every kill felt like a chord struck in perfect time. They pushed to the generator, and Emmett activated the sequence. The screen pulsed red. Enemy reinforcements inbound. "Final stand, boys and girl," Mark shouted, giddy. The battle that followed was pure chaos. Grenades lighting up the canyon, Jazz picking enemies off ledge by ledge, Derek clutching corners with uncanny precision. Emmett felt his pulse sinking with the on-screen rhythm, his voice calm even as the firefight exploded. "Rotate clockwise. Mark, hold middle. Derek, cover top catwalk. Jazz, keep overwatch." "On it." "Copy. Already killing them." They held the point down to the last second. When the victory banner splashed across the screen, the crew erupted at once. Mark, "That's what I'm talking about." Jazz, "See? Carried." Derek, "Nah, that was Emmett's strat. Again." Emmett just smiled, leaning back in his chair. "Good game, team. Same time tomorrow?" After the adrenaline dipped, conversation slid into the usual late-night haze. Jazz teased Mark about his obsession with energy drinks. Derek quietly admitted he'd been working overtime crunching numbers for his firm. Emmett, sipping his lukewarm coffee, shared a story about a client's router meltdown that turned into an office-wide panic. They weren't just voices anymore. Years of playing had woven them into a second family, synced across time zones and states. Even when life outside the screen pulled at them, this circle never broke. Tonight, though, something lingered. Emmett noticed Derek was quieter than usual. He still joked here and there, still clutch-played like a ghost in the machine, but his mic would fall silent for stretches at a time, long enough for Emmett to glance at his monitor as if he might see through the pixels. Still, Derek ended the night like always, calm and sure. Good games. See you all tomorrow. And for now, that was enough. Chapter 9. Friday night again. Emmett powered on his rig, headset already snug against his ears, the warm buzz of anticipation settling in. This was ritual, nearly muscle memory. Midnight crew night. Mark's voice was the first to hit comms, loud and full of swagger. Guess who's back in lobby and ready to wreck? Spoiler, it's me. Already regretting logging on, Jazz replied smoothly, her mic catching the faint clink of a mug being set down. Emmett, tell him to pipe down. Not my job, Emmett said with a grin. Besides, this is the only time of the week where Mark gets to be a superhero. Mark scoffed. Correction, every day of my life is superhero material. The banter clicked like always, comforting in its predictability. They cued into Iron Siege, fingers flying over keys, avatars dropping into the neon-bathed map of Ember Spires. Only one thing was off. Where's Derek? Jazz asked after a beat, scanning her friends list. His gamertag, shaded, wasn't lit. Still setting up, maybe? Emmett said, checking his notifications. No ping, no green dot, nothing. He's usually the first one here. Maybe he finally got a social life, Mark teased. Guy's mysterious. Wouldn't surprise me if he's secretly James Bond. Jazz exhaled through her nose. Or maybe he's just running late. Not all of us revolve around your time zone, Dunn. Fair. They shrugged it off, figuring he'd pop in mid-match. But he didn't. The match without Derek felt unbalanced. Mark still charged into firefights, shouting triumphantly before inevitably calling for backup. Jazz picked off targets with her usual razor aim. Emmett anchored, keeping the squad from imploding. But Derek's absence was glaring. No steady pistol shots from the shadows. No calm, clipped callouts that always came at the perfect second. When they lost their second round in a row, Emmett leaned back, staring at the empty slot in the roster. Feels weird, he muttered. Like missing a limb, Jazz agreed. Like losing my favorite hype man, Mark added. Don't tell him I said that. His ego can't take it. They laughed, but the unease lingered. After 3 more rounds, they dropped out of queue. Still no shaded, no message, no ping in group chat. Maybe he's out for the night, Emmett said, though the doubt in his tone was obvious. Stuff comes up. Jazz hummed. Not like him, though. He's consistent. Guy could be in a coma and still log in on time, Mark said, half joking, half serious. The silence that followed wasn't the usual comfortable kind. It pressed against their ears, heavy in the way it filled the spaces Derek normally slipped into. Let's call it for tonight, Jazz finally said. See if he shows tomorrow. But tomorrow came, and still no Derek. No green light, no messages. By Sunday night, the group chat was filling with question marks, jokes that carried more worry than humor, and Emmett scrolling through old call logs to double-check if Derek had ever actually given his number. He hadn't. Names, voices, stories, years of friendship, and yet, here they were, realizing how little hard info they had. For the first time in over a decade, the Midnight Cruise lobby was quiet. Anan, Chapter 10. Emmett's Saturday had been spent the way most of his Saturdays went, half-heartedly cleaning his apartment, fixing a router for a client, grabbing lunch from the taco truck near his building. By evening, though, all that faded into background noise. He sat at his desk, headset snug, screen glowing in the familiar hues of Iron Siege. The lobby was waiting, but it wasn't whole. Mark's voice was loud and impatient as always. All right, someone explain to me why Shaded is ghosting us 2 nights in a row. Dude better be winning the lottery or on a beach somewhere, 'cause if he's dead in a ditch, I'm gonna be pissed. Dark, Jazz said dryly, her voice crisp. But yes, it's strange. Derek hasn't missed a night in, 3 years? Try longer, Emmett said. He scrolled through his friends list again, even though he knew the result. No green light. He's been here since the beginning, back when we were all still pretending to be productive college kids. Mark chuckled. I wasn't pretending. You weren't productive either, Jazz shot back. True. They queued for a match anyway. Old habits carried them forward. But without Derek, the dynamic tilted just enough to feel wrong. Mark rushed in like usual. Jazz picked off enemies. Emmett called plays. But the cohesion frayed at the edges. The silent safety net Derek always provided just wasn't there. By the third loss in a row, even Mark was quieter. Emmett finally said what they were all thinking. Okay, this isn't just him being busy. Something's up. After the match, the lobby turned into detective headquarters. Anybody got him on socials? Emmett asked. I checked Instagram, Jazz replied. Last post was months ago. Sunset photo looked like it was from his back porch. Caption was some cryptic nonsense about colors. On brand, Mark muttered. Twitter? Emmett prompted. Dormant. His last retweet was about game patch notes. Mark snorted. So you're saying our boy lives on siege patch updates and porch aesthetics. Sounds right. Do either of you have his number? Jazz asked. Silence. Mark finally admitted, Nah, I kept meaning to ask, but, we always just logged on. Didn't need it. Emmett rubbed his temples. Same. Closest thing I have is his email from that time we ran a side tournament together. Email? Mark laughed. What year is this? 2006? Better than nothing, Jazz said. They dug. Emmett fired off a quick message to Derek's old Gmail, the subject line plain. You good? No bounce back, but no reply either. Mark claimed he was going to do some recon and disappeared into the depths of Facebook, only to return with the announcement. His page is private and his profile pic is just a mountain, real helpful. Maybe his family? Jazz suggested. Pretty sure he's an only child. He mentioned once his parents lived out of state. Emmett leaned back, staring at the familiar gamer tags in the lobby. They'd known each other since 8th grade, since the nights when homework was forgotten for late sessions of Halo and Counter-Strike, since Discord wasn't even a thing yet. They'd built years of memories, carried each other through school, jobs, breakups, whole life chapters. And yet, here they were, stumped because one of them vanished from a game lobby. The next few nights blurred. Monday. Still no shaded. Emmett's email unanswered. Mark made jokes about sending a search party, but didn't laugh as hard as he usually would. Tuesday. Jazz admitted she'd done a reverse search on his email address, found nothing recent. Emmett started Googling Derek's name, wading through old mentions of college clubs, a LinkedIn profile that hadn't been updated in years. Wednesday. The mood dipped even further. Their matches felt forced, like they were going through the motions just to keep the rhythm alive. Every win felt hollow. Every loss felt heavier. By Thursday, Mark finally said it aloud. This sucks. We gotta actually find him. I'm not playing until we do. Agreed, Jazz said immediately. Emmett closed his eyes, letting the weight of her words settle. He didn't want to admit it, but the thought had been gnawing at him too. If Derek really was in trouble, or even just struggling, they couldn't sit here firing virtual rifles into digital enemies and hope it fixed itself. That weekend, Emmett decided to push harder. He dug back into Derek's old messages, piecing together tiny breadcrumbs. Mentions of neighbors being loud, references to a coffee shop near his apartment, a throwaway comment about the lake road that got icy in winter. It wasn't much, but it was something. He made a list, sent it to Jazz and Mark. Mark replied first. Detective Navarro on the case. Where do we start? Jazz's response was more measured. If we're serious, we should divide this up. I'll check databases. Mark, see if you can get more from socials. Emmett, you've got the best memory for his offhand comments. Keep digging. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a flashy raid or a last-second clutch. It was emails, searches, late-night theories whispered over headsets, but for the first time since Derek's silence, the crew felt like a team again. And for Emmett, that meant hope. Because if there was one thing he knew, it was that the Midnight Crew didn't leave anyone behind. Chapter 11. Friday night again. Another week gone, another empty lobby slot where shaded should have been. Emmett stared at the screen longer than usual, headset humming faint static in his ears. He'd gotten used to Derek's absence in the worst possible way. Like a missing tooth your tongue couldn't stop prodding. Mark broke the silence. All right, it's official. This is week 2 without our boy. I'm calling it, Navarro, you're now lead detective. Jazz, you're tech support. I'm muscle, I guess. You're comic relief, Jazz corrected. Harsh. Accurate, Emmett said, a tired smile tugging at his lips. They didn't even bother cueing a match this time. The lobby was just background now, a glowing reminder of what wasn't right. Emmett opened a shared doc he'd been building all week. Operation Shaded, Mark had named it, because of course he had. Inside was a mess of bullet points. Derek mentioned a Lake Road. Once talked about the coffee shop near his apartment. Complained about noisy upstairs neighbors. Works remote, data-related job. Parents live out of state. Not much, but it was something. I might have something, Jazz said suddenly. Her tone was calm, but Emmett could hear the faint current of triumph underneath. I ran his old Gmail through a database lookup. Got a couple hits tied to an address in Ohio. Small town. Doesn't look like it's been updated in years, but Ohio, Mark repeated, drawing out the word like it was a punchline. Figures he lives in the one state that's basically a meme. Emmett sat forward. That tracks. He mentioned snowstorms messing with his internet a few winters back. Midwest fits. Jazz continued. I also found a work listing tied to his name. Remote data analysis contract. Company's based in Chicago, but it lists him as regional independent, which doesn't narrow much, but it means he's still on paper somewhere. Holy crap, Mark said. So our boy is a ghost online but still paying taxes. Respect. Mark, Jazz warned. Fine, fine, serious face. They spent the next hour combing the small town's digital footprint. Public library website, local business listings, a community Facebook page. Mark stumbled into that featured way too many pictures of bake sales and lost cats. Nothing screamed Derek. But then, wait, Emmett said, scrolling through an old post from the town's newspaper archive. It was a photo of a chili cook-off from 3 years ago. The caption listed participants. One of the names, Derek Print. That's him, Emmett breathed. Print, Mark asked. He's in a chili cook-off and he never told us? Betrayal. He probably didn't want you making fun of it, Jazz said dryly. Mark feigned offense. Me? Mock chili supremacy? Never. But Emmett barely heard them. For the first time in weeks, he felt that pulse of certainty. Derek wasn't just some mystery behind a muted gamertag. He was there. He was real. He lived in a town with chili cook-offs and bake sales, and neighbors too loud upstairs. And that meant he could be found. By the end of the night, their plan was forming. Jazz would dig for more recent records, maybe utilities or property listings. Emmett would craft another email, more detailed, hoping Derek might finally see it. Mark volunteered to drive out there if it came to it, though everyone knew he didn't even own a car worth the trip. Baby steps, Jazz reminded them. We're close now. We just have to keep pulling the thread. Emmett sat back, a mix of exhaustion and relief washing over him. For the first time since Derek had gone silent, hope didn't feel naive. The midnight crew had their first breadcrumb. And they weren't letting go. Chapter 12. Saturday night arrived, and the midnight crew logged on with a different kind of energy. The empty slot in the lobby still glowed where Derek's name once lit green. But tonight, they weren't lingering in denial. Tonight, they were hunting for answers. Emmett had maps open on his second monitor, tabs stacked into oblivion, sticky notes spread across his desk. Jazz had lines of search results scrolling on her end, each one filtered and refiltered. Mark had brewed a pot of coffee strong enough to power a small city. Operation Shaded, Mark declared, voice booming. Day. What is this, 15, 20? I lost track. Day 11 since last login, Jazz said, clipped and precise. Feels like a year. Because you're dramatic, she shot back. Emmett muted them for a second, not because he was annoyed, but because the noise helped him think better in silence. He stared at the town map Jazz had found, zoomed in on an area near a lake. A memory stirred. something Derek had once said during a winter match 3 years ago. Lake Road's iced over. Hope the mailman's tires are better than mine. That had to mean he lived near the water. He unmuted. Guys, the lake. Remember he mentioned icy roads near his place? I'm betting he's in one of these neighborhoods right here. He dragged his cursor across the map. Narrow strip, maybe a dozen houses tops. Jazz leaned into her mic. That's solid. Add that to the chili cook-off listing. We're closing in. All right, Mark said, rubbing his hands like a cartoon villain. So what's next? Do we call every pizza place in town and ask if Derek Print orders extra cheese? Or, Jazz interrupted, we do this like adults. Public property records are searchable in small counties. I already pulled up the portal. There was a pause. Even Emmett sat up straighter. Wait, Mark said slowly. You're telling me you've been sitting on the county clerk's site this whole time and only now decided to flex? I was verifying, Jazz said. It took time. And people think I'm the shady one. 10 minutes later, Jazz's typing filled the channel. Then her voice returned, calm but triumphant. Got it. Property under the name Derek Print. Small house, listed as purchased 4 years ago, right off Lakeview Road. Bingo! Mark shouted so loud Emmett winced. Our boy's real. Our boy's locatable. Jazz, marry me. No. Cold. But Emmett's chest filled with warmth anyway. The outline of Derek's life was finally taking shape. A house, an address, proof that he wasn't just a digital phantom slipping away. They were so close it was maddening. The next 2 nights blurred into obsession. Between matches, which none of them really cared about anymore, they built a plan. Emmett suggested sending a letter. Old school. If his internet's down, he might get mail. Mark offered to road trip, swearing he could borrow his cousin's car. I'll just roll up, knock, say, hey man, your guild misses you. Easy. Jazz argued for patience. He could just be without tech. Pushing too hard might spook him. Let's try one step at a time. But Emmett couldn't shake the gnawing urgency. He replayed every memory. Derek's dry humor cutting through Mark's chaos, his precise timing in firefights, the way his voice never rose even when everyone else panicked. Derek wasn't just another player. He was part of the crew's foundation. Without him, the game itself felt emptier. Tuesday night, Emmett finally acted. While Mark was off making terrible chili jokes and Jazz combed the county website again, Emmett wrote a letter. Derek, we noticed you've been offline. Lobby's not the same without you. Hoping everything's okay. If you get this, hit us back however you can. We'll wait as long as it takes. Emmett, artist's own. Jazz, Valk, Mark, Irons. He mailed it the next morning, his heart pounding harder than it should have over a plain white envelope. But the waiting was brutal. By Friday night, there was still no word. Mark grew restless, ranting about driving out anyway. Jazz insisted they give it another week. Emmett sat in the middle, torn between their impulses. Their gaming sessions continued, but it was different. Every time Emmett queued up, he half expected Derek's tag to pop green again, a calm voice breaking through the chatter. You guys couldn't win a match without me, huh? It never came. Instead, they filled the silence with memories. Remember that raid in Iron Siege when Derek literally carried us through with just a pistol? Mark asked one night, laughing. Dude didn't even reload, I swear. Or when he muted for 10 minutes, Jazz added, and then unmuted just to say backstabber on your left, saving Mark's hide. That man's psychic, Emmett said softly. They laughed, but there was a wistfulness beneath it. Every memory they listed only reminded them how much they missed him. The breakthrough came Sunday morning when Emmett opened his mailbox to find a reply. A postcard, cheap, generic, the kind you grab at a gas station. The front showed a grainy photo of the town's lake. On the back, in Derek's unmistakably neat handwriting, equipment's gone, fire wrecked my setup, no phone either, been offline, still alive, don't freak. Emmett's chest loosened in relief so fast it hurt. He ran inside, snapped a picture, and sent it straight to Jazz and Mark. Mark's reply was instant. Knew he wasn't dead. Road trip confirmed. We're bringing the man a console if it kills me. Jazz replied after a pause. Good. Now we know. Let's make a plan. Emmett sat back, clutching the postcard. For the first time in weeks, he let himself believe the lobby wouldn't stay empty forever. They hadn't found him face to face yet, but they were close. So close. Chapter 13. The neighborhood Derek lived in was quieter than Emmett expected. The trees lined the sidewalks in long shadows, their branches swaying in the soft push of a spring breeze. By the time Emmett parked, Marcus and Jazz were already there, Marcus leaning against his truck, Jazz pacing with her hands stuffed into her hoodie's front pocket, her hair pulled back. Emmett killed the engine, took a deep breath, and got out. His heart was beating fast, not from nerves about Derek being in danger. They'd already texted with him the night before, confirming he was safe. But because this felt unreal. After more than a decade of friendship built through headsets, controller grips, and monitors glowing deep into the night, they were finally about to stand on the same patch of earth. "Yo," Marcus said, pushing off the truck, a wide grin cracking across his face. He grabbed Emmett into a backslap hug. "Man, I swear, you look taller than your mic made you sound." Jazz rolled her eyes, though she smiled too. "That's your first line? After 13 years? Emmett chuckled. "Guess so." He turned toward the house, the one with the blackened siding and boarded-up window. It was only partially damaged, but enough to make the front stand out like a bruise on the otherwise tidy street. The door opened before they even knocked. Derek stood there, hands shoved in his pockets, the faint smell of smoke still clinging to his hoodie. His hair was messy, his eyes tired, but the smirk was the same, the one they knew from the late-night lobbies, when he'd finally break his silence after 30 minutes and land the game-winning shot. "Guess I don't have to ask who's who," Derek said. For a long moment, none of them moved. The air buzzed with years of stories, wins, losses, and confessions shared over static microphones. Then Marcus couldn't take it anymore and stepped forward, crushing Derek in a bear hug. "Dude," Marcus said, his voice muffled, "you had us worried." Derek coughed into his shoulder, half laughing, half exasperated. "Yeah, well, you should have seen my landlord. He was worse." Emmett and Jazz stepped in too, each grabbing Derek in turn. The four of them stood awkwardly close in the doorway, laughing nervously. For all their bravado online, it was weird suddenly being flesh and bone in front of each other, but it wasn't bad. It was grounding. Inside, Derek's living room was stripped bare, a table pushed to one corner, a few cardboard boxes stacked neatly. A faint scorch mark ran up the far wall. No console, no PC. No glowing headset waiting to light up his face in blue neon. "I lost it all," Derek said, answering the question before anyone asked. He sat down on one of the boxes. "Insurance is taking forever. And I didn't really know how to reach you guys, you know? Numbers were in my phone and that burned. I figured it was easier to just disappear for a bit." Jazz crossed her arms. "Easier for you, not for us." Derek winced but nodded. "Fair." Emmett glanced at Marcus, then back at Derek. "That's why we're here. You're not disappearing, not on our watch." That afternoon was a blur of action. Marcus hauled in a spare monitor from his truck. Emmett carried in a box with a gently used console he'd snagged online for cheap. Jazz pulled out a new headset from her backpack, still sealed in plastic wrap. Derek stared at the pile like it was treasure. His voice cracked when he said, "You guys are serious?" "Dead serious," Marcus said. "The Midnight Crew doesn't lose a member over something as dumb as a fire." "It's not dumb," Derek muttered, but he was smiling. "It's just a lot." They set everything up in the corner of the room where Derek's old rig used to sit. When the screen finally blinked to life, showing the familiar menu of their game, Derek leaned back in his chair, staring at it like it was an old friend returning after a long journey. Jazz pulled out her phone. "We're not stopping here. Tonight, we raid, like nothing happened." That night, across 3 states, 4 consoles flickered on. The headsets clicked alive, and the old familiar voices filled the air. "Check, check. This thing still works?" Derek's voice came through, faint static fuzz and all. Marcus hollered, "Shade is returned." "About time," Jazz muttered, though they all heard the warmth beneath it. Emmett grinned in his own quiet way. "Feels right again." Their avatars spawned in, fully geared, standing side by side in the digital dust of the game's war-torn map. They fell into formation without even thinking. Marcus charging ahead, Jazz covering from the ridge, Derek slipping into the shadows, and Emmett calling the shots. The muscle memory was still there, alive and unbroken. The raid was chaos. Explosions thundered, enemies swarmed. Derek, rusty at first, found his rhythm after a few rounds, clutching with a perfectly timed snipe that had Marcus shouting so loud his mic clipped. Jazz cursed in disbelief. Emmett laughed so hard he nearly choked on his water. It was like no time had passed at all. Hours later, when the match ended and the crew sat in the lobby staring at their victory screen, silence fell. The kind of silence that only comes when there's nothing left to prove. "You know," Derek said, breaking it, "when the fire happened, I thought maybe that was it. Like maybe life was telling me it was time to grow out of this. Gaming. Us." "Yeah?" Marcus asked. "Yeah, but then I realized..." Derek hesitated, his voice dropping to something raw. "I don't want to grow out of this. You guys, you're the most consistent thing in my life. This crew, it's not just a hobby, it's family. And you don't grow out of family." Jazz's voice softened. "You don't." Emmett felt something tighten in his chest, the kind of feeling you get when you know you're standing in a moment you'll remember years from now. He swallowed hard. Then it settled. No matter what happens, jobs, moves, houses burning down, we find a way back here. Together. "Respawn together," Marcus said. "Respawn together," they all echoed. The lobby timer ticked down, their next match loaded in. And as the digital battlefield spread out before them, lit in the glow of their screens, the midnight crew marched forward again. 5 voices, 5 lives, bound by one game, one friendship, and the promise that no matter what the world threw at them, they'd always have this.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Until next time, stay safe.